All right, I'm out in the shop now. You can see that I've printed off a copy of my plans. So now, I need to take and build a couple of 2-inch wheels. I'm trying to repair my daughter's worm, so I'll go ahead and do that. You'll notice I've already gone ahead and cut a piece of pine that's the right size. Now, if you measure this, I'm making 2-inch wheels, but I have to have a little bit on both sides to be able to cut and still make the wheel properly. So let's go ahead and take you over and show you the setup that I've got on the drill press. Okay, on the drill press, I've got myself a 2-inch hole saw. Now, actually, this is 2 1/4, but that's not the point. The point is these hole saws cut the outside. I'm looking for as close to 2 inches as I can get on the inside. I've also set a notch, very similar to the one you see right here, in the back. And I had to drill that in a piece of wood before I attached it as my fence. And I don't want to be right against it because I want the sawdust to come out of there, and that's really important. Now, as I put that in there and I slide it up, I want to set it up so that this edge of the saw is slightly over the edge here. Now, if I were a little bit more cautious, I could have cut the thing just a little bit narrower so that the sawdust would come out in the front. I'm going to drill this a little bit and show you what I'm talking about. Now you can see that sawdust coming out there, but you also want to make sure that you're inside your board on both sides, and the sawdust will kick out of those spots. If I had narrowed my board, if I measure that wheel is actually about 1 3/4, just a little less. So I could have got away cutting that a little bit smaller. I'm going to knock off this corner, which is something you can do, but it does take a little bit more time. Hold the phone a second and I'll go cut that. Okay, now you see I've cut off that corner here so that I've not nipped the point of the wheel, but I have allowed the sawdust to leave. Now I'll go ahead and drill it. I'm only going to drill it part way through on the front. I'll turn it over and do the back. I'll show you why in a moment. Okay, now you see, I've got a very thin edge right there that has not been cut. You don't want to go all the way through if you can avoid it. And I'll show you why in just a few moments. If you turn it over like this, now you can see that I can pull that right out of there, and I've got very little damage to the wheel. It's really important. If you would have gone all the way through that and put a mark into your board, then you're left trying to fish this out from clear up inside. If you do it that way, but you also want it as close to that edge as you can, because if your drill like this one coming from one side to the next leaves just a little bit of difference in them. So you want to make sure that you just cut almost through, but not all the way. Now, let's go ahead and show you how I finish these wheels off. Now, this works on any type of sanding surface like this. You could use a belt sander if you set it up in a jig so that you could do it like this. I've got a 6-inch belt sander that I purchased from Harbor Freight that I can do it on as well, but this one's got the right grit of sandpaper currently, so that's why I'm using this one. You also want a screwdriver that is slightly smaller than the diameter of the wheel of the axle that you're going to put on it. Now, I'm going to go ahead and set it in this orientation. As I put it in that orientation, it'll cause it to spin, but it will also sand off the outside edge. Then when I finish, I'm going to rotate it in just a little bit, turn it over, rotate it again, and that will put a slight radius on the outside of the wheel. So let's go ahead and do that. It's that fast to finish those wheels. Now you got to be careful not to go too long on one side or you'll end up putting a bevel on the wheel itself, which you really don't want. But you can whip through wheels like that just in short order. And you'll notice my wave worms that I'm doing right here. I've chosen to use these type of wheels on this one, even though I've purchased from AmericanWoodcrafter.com the wheels that I put on this just for speed. But all of the vast majority of these wave worms I've built, I've done like this. So now, once I've got that done, I can go ahead and just link them together. They're just links like a chain. And I'm ready to glue it. Now, I'm using 1/4-inch dowels on this, but one of the reasons I've got this back is you can see what's going on here. The wheels, my daughter runs a daycare and they're really, really hard on toys. So what I'm going to do, because we've knocked one off, typically I just put them on with CA glue or wood glue, but on these, because we're having problems with the kids, I'm going to put it on with Gorilla Glue. And it'll take a little longer for it to dry, but I'm okay with that. I've just taken a very, very fine rod, wooden rod. I will run it around the inside. You don't want it to get too much, and you certainly don't want to make a mess. And make sure that you're up to about the surface level right there. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do the same with this wheel. Put some glue in it. Mount it on, get it positioned properly, and then because that one was being a pill, I pulled it out just a little bit, and as that Gorilla Glue tends to expand, it will solidify and fill that hole. There's another trick that I actually pull if you struggle with these things working, and that is that I will take my axles and I'll take them on a bandsaw and I'll put a slit in them, and I can do it with 1/4-inch axles. This happens to be a 3/8 axle. And then I will take a small wedge of wood. You can see this one I've tapered off. I will slice it to whatever the diameter of that axle is. I will put the wheel on. I will put some CA glue around it, and down inside there I will drive it down in and break it off. And that works really, really well to make those wheels almost indestructible. Hey, I appreciate you being with me. You ought to try making one of these wave worms. They're very easy to do. You'll notice you can make them as long as you want, as short as you want, and it's just simply sanding the ends to the proper size. And you can make them different sizes if you so desire. If it's the size that comes off, since whatever you're printing it off, you're not trying to match one of mine, you're trying to match one of yours, make it whatever size that you want. Hey, Enjoy.